Hi there. So as I was sitting there getting ready to do this video, I said to myself, let me, do a quick Google search and look up some catchy quote about a swing. And I came across a quote that said, "Life is a continual swing between the ridiculous and the sublime." Now, somehow, when I think of Megzy, that quote just seemed to stick out to me. Because where we find her ridiculous, as she continues to try and tell us that her life is sublime, I thought that was a very apropos quote. So let's get into this. So let's start out. Let's talk about the swing. This whole thing is just kind of ridiculous, but Meghan Markle is swinging into the weekend as she celebrates as ever's summer drop. No more sleeps. God, I really just hate her trite little sayings. But the Duchess of Sussex announced her brand as ever's restock and teased some delicious surprises earlier this week. Now, before we go any further, it's very important to note that this is from People magazine. So clearly still with the Meghan Markle bias. But, I mean, who does this every time they release a new collection to this extreme level? I mean, you didn't even succeed the first time around, but now you're doing this for the second time around? But I also want to note, do you see what it says 144 comments? I took this screenshot. You can see it says published on, like it was published earlier. So I took this the morning or the mid-morning of June 21st. So 24 hours later, and there's only 144 comments. Now, let's think about that. Even a year ago, a day after something like this, there would have been 500 comments. So already we can see she's losing ground big time. Please note, this is the photo that accompanies the headline of this article. Now, for any other publication, if this was anything other than People magazine, which is still firmly in Meghan Markle's camp, I would say that this was a subtle dig. But since it is, in fact, People magazine, it's very interesting to me that accompanying this article, which is also going to go into the photo of Catherine on the swing, uses this photo in the dress that is remarkably like Catherine in the gold dress. Like, I'm wondering if this is like subtle manipulation to make it seem as though all the connotations that you associate with Catherine's beautiful photographs, it's trying to build on that for Meghan. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, they want to kind of steal Catherine's narrative of, she's the pretty one, or she's the elegant one, or she's the one with the great fashion sense, and they're kind of trying to give that to Meghan by osmosis. And I will say this, and this is kind of worth noting. I know this is near sacrilege. I didn't like Catherine's gold dress. I know. This is not a dig against Catherine. I just didn't like the gold dress. I know it's hard for people to imagine that. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't like the shoulders. I didn't like the gold lame of it. Not to say that I like this one any better, but even to me, who didn't like that dress, sees this as being such an inferior version of it, that it's just ridiculous to me. But that's just a little side note. On to the meat of the article. I'm completely honest, I don't even really want to talk about the article. I mean, there's nothing really new in here. Yeah, she tells us that she's got all these bright, wonderful new products. Like, didn't she say something about apricot jam and a new version of honey? Whatever. You didn't have the honey last time, but now you want us to believe you have the honey and that you sold it out just like last time? Well, does that include all the people that didn't get it and ordered last time? They got it first, right? Or did you just send them some flour sprinkles? I mean, I can't take much of this whole as ever nonsense very seriously. But let's talk about some of the issues around this. Like this ludicrous photo of her in the swing. We're going to get into the other swings in a minute. Let's just look at the ridiculousness of this one. Sleeps. Well, this makes no sense, okay? Because that phrase, the connotation of that phrase is, no more nights of waiting because you don't have to go to sleep and wake up again. It's the day is here. But you can see her, she was already saying that, 7 days out? So what? It's a countdown to no more sleeps? Well, that's just ridiculous. Ugh, this woman. It's just ridiculous. And can we say there is also supposed to be the connotation as though this woman is working so hard she can't sleep as she prepares for this so important release, when we all know she didn't do a damn thing for it. So what the heck is she... I know you know, but these are just the things that I notice right off the bat when I'm looking at this. Now, I can't even with the yellow dress, but let's zoom in on actually, Megan of the Jungle here. That's not a palm tree, right? So what is that? Is that a banyan tree? Like, is this where, the myth carriage burial occurred? Like, what? She looks like she's like somewhere in the bayou or something with, these Spanish moss type trees. It doesn't look like Los Angeles to me. I mean, am I missing something? Have I ever been I don't think I've ever been to Los Angeles. I have been to California, but not Los Angeles. I've been to Northern California. But this doesn't look to me like Southern California. It looks like I said, some sort of bayou region. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I just don't think it fits, which is why I say, she looks like Megan of the Jungle. It looks like she's like Tarzan on a rope swing. So let's get to the nitty gritty here, okay? This is the screenshot direct from People magazine, enlarged. Like, you can see that the face is fake. And sadly, and this is even the crazier part, if you look at that and you kind of squint your eyes a bit, and you look at that photo, it actually looks like it could be freaking Catherine. Look at that. Look at the profile there. It's the chin. It's the thinness of the cheeks. That looks more like Catherine than it does like Megan. So even in her fake photos of a fake her doing a fake thing, she tries to be just like Catherine. I mean, at some point, someone really needs to kind of, step up and stop this woman. It's ludicrous. You see what I mean? To me, this looks like Megan isn't even content to Photoshop her photos. She has to Photoshop her photos to make her look more like Catherine. It's so bizarre. I mean, I know this isn't exactly news, but this extreme, this is news. And look, you can even see the line from where the face was merely pasted onto someone else's body. I wonder what the real person on a swing looks like. I mean, it doesn't look real. Again, who looks like the Stepford wife? The robotic one that's sitting there on the right-hand side with, the crazy dress on. Ugh, this woman. I don't want to read the whole article. I want to kind of pick and choose the parts that I consider noteworthy or important for some particular reason. So I warn you that like this first sentence, I'm kind of picking it up. It sounds like I'm picking it up in the middle because I kind of am. But it says her most recent snap, and then the her that they are referring to in this sentence is actually Megan. The her in her most recent snap is eerily reminiscent of a picture taken of Princess Kate. Now, I say Princess Kate because this is important, and I said this a couple months back that it was going to start to become important to know what the actual article says. It says her most recent snap of Princess Kate taken in for a garden show she designed for the Chelsea Flower Show in 2019. Then it says, according to the designers at the time, the princess wanted to promote the benefits of being outdoors, as well as the garden to be a playground for children to enjoy. Proud of her creation, a beaming and playful Princess Catherine can be seen recapturing her tomboy childhood on a rope swing slung. That's quite a tongue twister there. But notice it says now, Princess Catherine, make up your minds. Don't you think that's a little odd? But it kind of reinforces the idea that I said it's going to start becoming important to see who is calling Catherine Catherine and who is calling her Kate. And the fact that People magazine can't quite make up their mind. It says they are still Meghan's person, but they're not as willing as they once were to piss off the royal family. You know what I mean? So that's why I said this, a couple months back, that I didn't want to keep changing it automatically when the author calls her Kate, because it's becoming important to note whose side the author is on based on whether they say Catherine or Kate. If it was anything other than People magazine, I would have thought that line, her recapturing her tomboy childhood, I wouldn't have thought too much of it. I would have said, well, we've seen the photos. We know that Catherine is a very athletic person, and we've seen a lot of the photos of her as a kid. Kind of an outdoorsy kind of, I would call her a tomboy. I was a tomboy. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I wouldn't think anything of it if it wasn't that it's People magazine. Because it's People magazine, I think that is Meghan's way of a dig. That's a matter of interpretation, and you certainly don't need to, there's certainly other ways of interpreting that. But for me, I don't know. You tell me what you think. I think that was a bit of a dig at Catherine. And the fact that Meghan can't resist taking these swipes to me, you only take those sort of like low blows and very hidden ones when you're desperate. And that's what it says to me. It says that Meghan is getting desperate to just make those little quips. When you have the new photo of Meghan on a swing, now when you Google that, you get all these, hits, obviously, for this photo. Now, a couple interesting things about this photo. Again, it looks like she's in the frickin' bayou rather than in Los Angeles, but this is a photo that the Royal Grift had kind of looked at rather extensively. And there were a couple things that the Royal Grift pointed out about this that I would agree with the Royal Grift. I don't think this is a real photo. But not only that, it is a not real photo, and it was put out by the Markle family, not by Meghan. So the fact that we're now seeing this photo come back up, I kind of have to wonder who's pushing that. Is there something in this that maybe we should be seeing? The only thing that I would say is that this photo, like we said, we have to remember the source of it. But this photo, I get the feeling that ribbon, which I believe was for domestic violence or something like that. I don't know. I think there's something in it. And I do have to wonder whether or not we're supposed to be catching on to something. I could be reading too much into it. Definitely. I'm certainly by no means saying that it's a definitive thing. But it's not like Meghan doesn't know that this photo is out there. And I always believe that even if you think it's a coincidence with Meghan, very few things are coincidence. It's not a coincidence that the photo is, her profile looks just like Catherine. It's not a coincidence that the, photo of Catherine in the swing and the photo of Megxie in the swing. It's not a coincidence that this photo comes up now because of Meghan doing another photo on a rope swing. You know what I mean? It may not be more than just a sign of her desperation, but it certainly is interesting to me, and it's certainly worth noting, in my opinion. Now, as I said, I can't quite discount things, even if they seem to be simply coincidental. And so I have to note that this is not, the first time that rope swings have played a role in the Markle family drama. Samantha Markle, Meghan Markle's older half-sister, experienced a serious accident involving a rope swing during her high school years, according to MSN. The accident caused temporary paralysis in her left side and blindness in one eye. This incident, coupled with other symptoms, eventually led to her multiple sclerosis diagnosis. She was not properly diagnosed until her early 40s when she became wheelchair bound due to the disease. Now, thinking that through again, why do things keep circling back? And I almost get the feeling that perhaps the Markle siblings, by, presenting that photo of Meghan on the rope swing, I don't know, almost as though they are taunting her with their ability to grift off of her. I don't know. I mean, these are just things that, I'm wondering. This is just all speculation, obviously, and it's clearly based on just this one photo that comes out, which, I'm not saying that Meghan's only purpose in the, the as ever swing photo is, a highlight to Samantha. No, I actually the opposite. I think it absolutely is a highlight to Catherine. But I do think it's odd the way there are things that recur. Literature at all, you'll know that there are things called a trope. And a trope in literature it's kind of like a recurring theme where specifically in literature, it's a recurring storyline. And usually it's like these old storylines, kind of the ones that we see different versions of over and over. For example, a Beauty and the Beast or an Oedipal storyline, where these tried and true sort of ebbs and flows of a story can be repeated. Well, it's almost as though I feel like a lot of the Markle story, probably because I feel that a lot of it is manufactured on all sides, they're like tropes, where instead of authenticity, you kind of get this repeating narrative. And that's why I say this whole thing has become like a balance between the ridiculous and the sublime. And the ridiculous is on our side looking at it and saying, oh my goodness, how ridiculous has this become? Where at the same exact time, you have Meghan out there pretending to be so sublimely happy. And I just find that dichotomy, it's just becoming more extreme. I mean, it always was pretty extreme for those of us that kind of saw through Meghan, but it just seems to be growing by leaps and bounds. I look forward to reading your thoughts down in the comments. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you all have a great day, filled with love, laughter, and of course, dancing.
Dancing